typical me fashion, I want to start today by asking you to talk to your neighbour. And half the eyes in the room, I get it, be social. So, I want you to turn to your neighbour and take a moment to share what is something that you are hopeful for. Go! Okay. And to give me about another minute to take a few deep breaths and settle myself before I share with you, I'm going to give you another question. So, while you're at it, take a moment to talk about a moment in your life that you experienced fear. Terrifying. Cool. Nice. Well done. For the amount of eye rolls I saw when I asked you to talk to your neighbour, you've done pretty well. Well done, everyone. So, I'll be really honest with you. When I first saw an email from Matt about a month ago titled Self-Denial Preaching Guidelines, I was a bit like, oh, that's odd. Don't usually see those emails. Maybe I've got a bit of a special role this series. Maybe Matt and I are doing something like we did Quizmaster last December. That was quite cool. That was a bit of fun. Maybe I get to interview one of those pretty cool guest speakers. You know, the ones that have done heaps of mission work overseas, and that would be pretty... That says preaching. Yep, still says preaching. Okay. Yep. Look, I don't mind. Don't mind preaching at all. Actually, I quite enjoy it when it's over. It's a bit nerve-wracking being up here, doing my best to deliver a message that actually informs or impacts or sparks thought in you all. But I'm totally fine with giving it a crack. Usually I have a topic that's been on the heart for a little while now, and put a bit of thought into it, dwelled on the idea, and then I'll go, Matt, look, if you need me, I'm ready. Get me up there. Just give me 5 to 6 months of mental preparation. Yeah. So this one's a little bit different. I didn't pick this topic. I didn't get my 5 to 6 months of mental prep. I'm not even your typical self-denial speaker who's done all submission work overseas and who can share about the front lines of where our donations go. Unless you count, actually, directing my family around New York. Man, them with a map was useless. That might be mission work in the slightest, but hey, we'll ignore it. So why is my name on that email right there? But then I thought maybe that's just the point. I often feel as if we overcomplicate things. We make things bigger and scarier than they really are. So today, we're going to take a step back, take a few deep breaths, yeah, that's a good one, good reminder, and unpack this a little bit more. Growing up, when it came to anything I wanted to improve in, whether it be sports, schooling, if I wanted to learn a musical instrument, sorry, that didn't quite work out, Mum's shaking her head. There was one phrase that Dad would actually tell us over and over again. And it was a little something called little and often. Because the daunting task of understanding that new maths topic at school, wanting to all of a sudden become a cross-country runner overnight, or wanting that overnight six-pack that every teenage boy has probably pulled a YouTube video up on at one point. It was never going to happen with one big give-it-your-all attempt. They would be achieved by the smaller, simple changes we make in our day-to-day lives. And I share this with you as self-denial is a daunting topic. How can little me really impact all those struggling around the world? It's expensive to live at the moment. What will my small donation do? I don't have the time of the day to pray for all of that. I'm struggling myself. My faith feels weak. How can I help others? And I say to you, church, do not put limits on the one who created the universe. This idea of little and often can be taken two ways. We know self-denial happens each year, so instead, putting together a big donation over the 6-week period, can I suggest, really simple, we put a small away over the 52 weeks of the year that'll impact your weekly life like nothing at all. But it adds up to a big amount towards the end, and will often be a greater amount than if you tried just the 6-week period. But point 2, and to me this is more important, it isn't about the size of your donation or length of your prayers that God uses for good, but the intent in your heart behind these instead. Putting in regular smaller efforts will often have a larger impact than one big attempt, because the commitment regular effort takes shows greater heart than a one-off crack at it. Mark 12:41-44. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she has to live on." Matthew 17:20. Because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. So who are we to say what the Lord can and cannot do? So, if you look at the week 4 self-denial devotional, you'll see that this week is titled, Why Are You So Afraid? Or Aftade, I just learnt. Promise it wasn't me. So, today we now have hope and we have fear. But lucky for me, I have the job title of youth, which is just the one-way ticket to say, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want and you can't tell me no. So, today is actually titled Faith. Because every time I sat down and tried to plan this message, I just found myself writing a message about faith. And here's why. Our fear stems from a lack of faith, and our hope comes from our faith in the God of, what does Paul say in Romans? Hope. Now, faith, it's a very scary topic. We've just heard from Matt not very long ago that through spiritual gifts, through our spiritual gifts series, and I can promise you, spiritual gifts, wise for me, faith is absolutely not one of them. Like 100% no. Yep. When I'm faced with a difficult situation, when life doesn't quite go as planned, I prefer this approach. I didn't get the chicken out of the freezer. Oh, it's still frozen. I'm just going to lie here for a minute. Just give me a second. Dinner's ruined. Wake me up tomorrow. I'll give it another attempt. Or just don't. I'll probably stuff it up again. Karen, can you advertise a reunion? That mate guy didn't do a very good job. I just need a moment.
So, the reunion. We're going to solve this issue of the sulking man down here, and we're going to override Matt. Now, he said that the prices have gone up because we're into August now. Remember, you had till the 1st of August to get your registrations in to get the early bird rate, but we're going to override Matt. And if you get your application in today, or actually, we might be really, really nice, tomorrow, by the end of Monday, you'll get the early bird rate. Otherwise, it's going up, folks. So $50 is a bargain. So get your registrations in, and not only get yours in, remember all those people that you've been in contact with, that have been part of the church and have been your friends here. Make sure you tag them and get them to get in as well. So you've got till tomorrow night, midnight. On to it. Okay, you get up again.
Thank you for that. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I just needed the moment. Yeah, that got such a suck. Yeah, anyway. So that's a bit of me. Maybe not quite over frozen chicken, but you get the point. Anyway, luckily, God is very good. And to help me with this, I got the gift of Dani, my lovely wife. And within 5 minutes of meeting her family at the very start of our relationship, it was hard not to see that faith is a spiritual gift of theirs. And since becoming a member of that family, I no longer get the option of having my moment, curling up into a ball, and then trying to solve whatever issue or fear I have by my own strength. Instead, I get this immediate reminder, have you prayed? Or I get it's all good, the Lord's with you. I even get it when talking about something that I'm hopeful for. I get that's good. Take hope to the Lord. Man, I'd rather curl up into a ball, but fair, you make a very good point. And I know that I'm not alone in this. I'm going to look around this room. Dad, you're one of them. You curl up into a ball. Mitch and Joel. Yep. Frozen chicken, little sulks. Yep. Derek. Yep. You're one of them. And I'm sure I could actually go around the room and say that the majority of us here probably don't have the immediate reaction of faith when we're faced with fear. Not that I'm scared of frozen chicken, but you get the point. This isn't unusual, and as we've just seen in today's Bible reading, it's literally about the disciples not having the immediate reaction of faith. So let's unpack that very quickly. So, Jesus, he's growing in popularity, he's drawing in large crowds, and he's just finished teaching a series of parables by the Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee, that's fun to say. And it has come time to leave the crowd with his disciples and head out onto the water to the other side. Jesus, exhausted from a full day of teaching, he falls asleep on a pillow, while the disciples, who I'll add, they're experienced fishermen. Can we just plaster that everywhere? Experienced fishermen are probably just chilling out, chatting about the day. That is when, in very typical Sea of Galilee fashion, a terrifying storm arrives. Waves crashing over the boat, filling it with water, wind blowing like crazy, and these disciples, experienced fishermen, who know the dangers of the sea, are becoming more and more certain that they will die in this storm. The entire time this is happening, Jesus, what a legend, he's just chilling. The boat's rocking, it's gone side to side, water splashing everywhere, and Jesus, he is zonked. He is out to it, he's still fast asleep. That is until the disciples decide to wake Jesus and they ask him that famous question, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" The disciples, they're terrified. They are going to die. They are certain of that. So what do? They actually start on the right track. They go to Jesus and they wake him. That is not where they went wrong. This verse isn't showing us that in the chaos of the storm, Jesus was so calm. So the disciples, just chill out, you're all good. No, they were wrong in what they did once Jesus was awake. They asked him, "Don't you care if we drown?" Quite the accusation. They're clearly full of fear and frustrated. But man, you've just watched this Jesus guy perform miracles over and over again. Surely your initial reaction is to ask for help, not to accuse. So Jesus gets up, and instead of joining them in their moment of fear and panic, he rebukes the wind and he says to the waves, "Quiet, be still." And in an instant the storm passes. Then he turns to his disciples and he asks, "Why are you so afraid? Why do you still have no faith?" The disciples were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Now that question, it's a bit of an interesting one because they clearly know who he is. They are his disciples. They've watched him teach and perform miracles recently, but this one was a little bit different. This act of authority proves that Jesus wasn't only this teacher and miracle worker that they're following, but they confirm that Jesus is God. This miracle echoes Old Testament descriptions of God's control over nature, which in a sudden moment of realization prompted that question from the disciples. And we actually see descriptions of God stilling storms to a whisper and hushing waves of the sea from Psalm 107 verse 29. That was written long before Jesus walked the earth. So in this moment of fear, the God of hope is revealed to the disciples. This is one of the first moments that we see Jesus reveal that he is more than a teacher and a miracle worker, but a saviour who can calm the storms of life. And it's a lesson of faith. So often we trust our fears and not Jesus. This passage, it's a powerful reminder of the authority that Jesus holds over every aspect of our lives. He is God. He is with us. And through our faith in him, we can have hope for the future. So ask yourself, how do you respond when the storms of life hit? Do you curl up into a ball? Do you panic? Or do you turn to Jesus in faith? Through Jesus and Jesus alone, we have hope for the future. And all of our fears and our worries, just biff them out the window, somewhat. Because we have faith that the creator of the universe is by our side every step of the way. If our faith is strong, our reaction won't be to curl up on stage, kick and scream. It won't be to ask, Jesus, don't you care? It won't be convincing ourselves that we can't possibly make a difference, this self-denial appeal. Because we know that the God of hope, who we want to share with the world, can work whatever we have to offer for good. Now, I want to share a story with you all. So a few years ago, Dani had a very sudden bill for her car. This followed a series of unexpected costs that had already set us back, which followed a little holiday that at the time we thought we could afford and definitely deserved. But as life tends to work out at times, we enjoyed our holiday, then we hit with a bill, and then another one, and then another one, and another one, another one, another one, another one, as it goes on. And this car one, that was just the icing on the cake. There was no way that we could afford this. It would be multiple paydays before we could scrape together enough to pay this off. So the financial fear that set in, that financial fear set in. And while I ran around in circles trying to plan what we could do, what we could sell in the next 30 seconds to pull the money together to pay this off, Dani, still helping me think of solutions, was calm, trusting that Lord would provide in some way or another. The next day, Dani actually received her donations tax return, and that amount paid for that car bill, like to the dollar almost. It's pretty cool. Now, I share this as money is something that often consumes my brain. It's a topic that scares me. We are in a time in life where it's expensive to live, so when it came to the conversation of tithing between Dani and I, it was exactly as Jules described it in week 1. It was a bit like going to the dentist. It was not on the top of my to-do list. It was a bit uncomfortable, often stressful, but you do walk away from it feeling a whole lot better. And I do get the feeling I'm not alone in this. The thought of giving is often uncomfortable, it is often stressful, and there may even be an element of fear over it. But through our giving, God does bless us. Now, we do not give to be blessed. I need to get that out there. But blessings are a result of the generosity we are called to show. So 2 Corinthians chapter 9, 6-7. Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. God loves a cheerful giver. I'm going to finish on a little quote from this week's self-denial devotional. Our givings plus God's so much more will do far greater things than we could ever imagine. Thank you.